Heyo, it's me, MTGJade here again for another video. Today I'm reworking my Cleric Tribal video to be in the new updated format, which is hopefully better and stuff, and better to watch and view and stuff, so let's go on to the video. So let's first talk about the commander, Orah, Skyclae, Hero, whatever. He basically has lifelink, and whenever him or another cleric enters the graveyard, you get a return one with a lesser converted mana cost back to the battlefield. Now this is a very synergistic and good card for this deck. It just allows good cleric support, which we haven't had too many good cleric tribal cards before, which I really enjoy. The other cool thing of note to recognize is since they changed the command or death rules, returning this to the command zone still counts as him dying, so his effect will still come and you'll still return a cleric to the battlefield, which is really nice. So now let's go on to the different mechanics and stuff. First we'll go on ramp. My ramp is very small because the highest converted mana cost card in this deck is a single 6-drop, and the rest are all just cheaper. It's a really low converted mana cost deck, which is nice, so there's not that much ramp. So we have Soul Ring, of course, I mean, who doesn't run it? Orzhov's Signet, just the other good, always used ramp card in this colored deck. Then lastly we have Mirrored Landscape, which is a land that ramps, which is always good. Now let's go into the Cleric tribe support cards that aren't actually clerics, they're just tribe support cards that aren't creatures. Okay, we have Icon and Ancestry. It boosts all your clerics by 1, and it gives you card advantage. Then we got Stoneforge Masterwork, a great equipment that can turn your commander into a Voltron out of nowhere if you want to. Etchings of the Chosen, a great card because not only is it a sack outlet to protect your creatures, but it also just buffs everything, which is always nice. And then Profane Prayers, a really interesting removal card that's tribal specific and stuff for clerics, which I love. Ministry Charm, which is basically only for cleric decks. It's a 1 black where you can either destroy target cleric, or the more common one, return a cleric with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand, which is what you'll probably be using it for. So yeah. Then we got the best land in the deck, Starlit Sanctum, since it's a cleric-specific land and stuff, which is great. Then we got Path of Ancestry as the last of the non-cleric tribal support cards, which lets you scribe because your commander is a cleric whenever you cast one, which is good. Now let's go into utility cleric cards. These are cards that are clerics that offer utility and stuff. We got Aim's Collector, which stops your opponents from drawing a ton of cards on top of letting you draw cards. Apostle of Purifying Light, which lets you have some selective graveyard removal, which is important because you don't want your own graveyard removed. We got Banisher Priest, which lets you remove your opponent's creatures and stuff, which is always just good to have a removal on a cleric. Devote Chaplain, which lets you get some removal for artifacts and enchantments, but it's repeatable, which is always nice. Then we got ourselves the Custody Lich, which gives you the amazing Monarch, which is always a fun thing in Commander and just a good mechanic all around. Then we got Core Sacrificers, which is more artifact and enchantment removal. Then Priest of Forgotten God, that is a sack outlet on top of letting you gain some life, our opponent sacrifice a creature, and you draw some cards. Or not. Is it draw cards? Sorry, let me check this real quick. Yeah, you do draw a card, yeah. So yeah, and then Remorseful Cleric. The Remorseful Cleric is another graveyard removal, but it doesn't remove your own, which is important. And then Sotorti Visionary, however you pronounce that thing, it's just more enchantment removal, but it has shadow, so it should always activate every turn. So yeah, next let's move on to the tribal cards that are actually clerics. We got the Acromos Devotee, which is gives all your clerics vigilance. Then Ancestry's Prophet, which lets you tap your creatures out like your end step or whatever, or gain a ton of life. Then we got Battlefield Medic, which prevents damage depending on how many clerics you have in play. And then we got Battlefield Alchemist, which does the same thing basically, but more expensive and in a better way where it doesn't require tapping. Then we got Edgewalker, which is just the known amazing cleric card because it just gives you a ton of, it makes all your cards just cheaper mana wise and stuff, which is nice. Then we got Howell Military Captain, which is a flip card where once it's flipped over, it just makes a whole bunch of clerics and stuff, which is really nice. And then Shield Mage Eldar, which sorry, I have to take my breath for a second. Shield Mage Eldar, which lets you tap 2 untap clerics you control, prevent damage dealt this turn and stuff, which is always nice. And that's the 1/6 mana converted mana cost that we have in this entire deck. Then we got the Tax Tabok's Hope's Demise, which is a brand new card that's also coming out in this set, which is just lets you draw cards when your clerics die, and your clerics are going to die in this deck with some sacrifice synergies and on top of them just eventually dying. And then Vel Deacon, which is one of the best cards in the deck without a doubt. That you can just swing with that and keep all your other clerics up for blocking, and it will do a ton of damage. And then lastly, we got Whiplash Entangler, which makes your creatures not being able to attack or block unless the controller plays one for each card in play. For each cleric in play, which is just a huge shutdown for a lot of decks and can save your life a ton of times. Now, let's go into the other cleric cards. The not so tribal or utility, but they have their in between there for other types of stuff. We got the Bishop of Rebirth, which is huge because it just lets you reanimate stuff easily, which is all good with this deck. We got Bone-Tag Bishop, which just lets you get a whole bunch of investigates, leading to more card draw. Child of Croxus, which is just a nice bit of life gain and stuff that can help save your life. And also it helps out with the getting it in the graveyard so you can get it back since it's only 1 mana. We got Daxos the Blessed, just lets you gain a bunch of life and has high toughness. Then we got Doomed Necromancer, which is just amazing reanimation. Again, kind of see a theme here for good bit of reanimation and stuff. We got 8.5 Tails, which can help you gain protection from stuff and save your creatures. We got Frontline Medic, which is just a great card for countering or at least limiting the power of X spells, on top of giving your stuff indestructible so you can swing with all without having to be worried. High Priest of Penance, which is just a huge card because it just lets you destroy any non-land permanent when it's damaged, which is huge. We then got Leonin Arbiter, which is just a hate bear for people that have expensive fetch lands in their decks and stuff, or that they want to actually tutor for cards. Then we got Melahog the Diplomat, however you pronounce that, which is just the mono white card draw. That's one of the only bits of it there is currently. So yeah, and he's a cleric, which is great. Then we got Mycus the Lunarch, which just makes all your other clerics potentially get bigger and stuff, which is good. And he's a cleric on top of that. We got Mother of Runes, more protection and stuff, just a great card. Order of the White Clay, more reanimation, but in a kind of weirder way, because it has the weird untap symbol, which is a unique thing. And then we got Then we got Rutlug Reanimator, which is just a great, one of the best cards in the deck, because while your clerics die and stuff, you get a ton of zombies, which is great since your clerics are probably going to be dying a lot with your sacrifice outlets and stuff to get full advantage of your commander. Then we got Skitlog the High Priest, which is recently got reprinted in Double Masters, which is nice, and it's just a good card because it just lets you easily get out a demon easily without having to do all that much, which is nice. Then we got next is Soul Warden and Soul's Adentant, or whatever you want. Sorry, I suck at words, dyslexia and stuff. But yeah, those both just give you 1 life whenever a creature enters the battlefield, and it's a 1-drop, which is nice. Thalia's Geese Caller, which is just a good cleric to have in the deck. Transcendent Master, I've been wanting to put this in Commander deck for so long because I find the card being so cool, and I'm so happy I can finally have it in a deck. Because it's just a really unique, cool card using the level up mechanic, which is, in my opinion, one of my favorite mechanics because it's just a ton of fun. Then we got Veto of the Thorn of the Dust Rose, which is your main win condition, and be honest, in this deck. It's the not only the best way an easiest way for you to win by using life gain to take out your enemies. And yeah, those are all the rest of the clerics. As you can tell, there's 39 different clerics in this deck, which is huge. This deck I want to build having a ton of clerics and being full-on cleric tribal, not having much else, which is just a unique style on. I don't even know if it's unique. It's just how I like building tribal stuff sometimes. Now let's go on to the Commando Synergies, which are cards that synergize with the Commando. First we'll talk about the sack cards that haven't already been mentioned, which is Fanatic Devotion, which is a great card because not only will it save another one of your creatures, but it also has a good sack outlet, replacing which creature would normally die. Then we got Altar of Dementia, a free sack outlet, again, because you always want at least 2 free sack outlets, so you generally have them most of the time. And then Westvale Abbey, which is lets you create clerics, and once you sacrifice them, you also get a huge demon, which is great. Then, now let's talk about the non-cleric reanimate cards. We got Immortal Servitude, which is huge since the deck has very low converted mana cost creature-wise, so you should be able to get that, getting like all your creatures back very commonly. We got Victimized because it's one of the best reanimation cards in the game, without a doubt, in Commando, and it brings you back 2 things. All you have to do is sacrifice 1, which is technically bringing you back 3 things if you have your Commando out, which is huge. Then we got Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. He gives all your stuff lifelink on your turn, and he makes it so that you can reanimate and stuff, which is all just good stuff this deck's wanting to do. Now the other cards, we have Buried Alive, which is kinda a toodle because you put in your graveyard, but you're planning to get it back either through using a reanimation card or from your Commando's ability. We got Kaya's Ghost Form, which will trigger the whole death thing still, but then you won't lose the card even though it died, and you'll get something back if the Commando's out. And then Phyrexian Reclamation, which is huge for if you have a card that's like a 5 mana cleric or something that's not easy to bring back. You can just get it back from your graveyard to your hand by paying 2 life and 2 mana, which is huge. Now let's talk about the card draw. We got Dawn of Hope, a great card draw since you'll be gaining a bunch of life and stuff. Wait a second, I have to do this real quick. Sorry, my mouth was getting dry. Yeah, we got Dawn of Hope, a great card draw since you're going to be gaining a lot of life for just 2 mana. Skull Clamp, another great card draw option. Since you all have sack outlets and stuff, you'll just be drawn through your deck with it. Sign in Blood as a nice sorcery that draws you cards and stuff. And then a highly underplayed card in Commander, which is Underworld Connection. Sure, you have to put it on a land and you won't be tapping that land for mana, but you'll be drawing a card without having to necessarily pay mana or anything, which is nice. Next, let's talk about the miscellaneous stuff, which is more removal and then a hate bearer card. So we got Day of Judgment, board wipe without the whole regeneration stuff like Wrath of God, so you'll still be able to regenerate with your immortal, the Fanatic Devotion and stuff, which is good. Kaya's Wrath, it gives you life and it's a board wipe. What else could you want? We got Swords to Plowshare, just the staple or removal in the format for creatures and stuff. And then Stony Silence, just being a hate bearer, and since you don't really run that many artifacts, it's a really good card that can shut down other decks. Lastly, let's talk about the lands. And we are running only 36 lands, and if you don't know already, I normally always run 37, but since this deck has a lot lower converted mana cost, I figured 36 would be better. We got Barrow Mourn, Command Tower, Feeded Heath, Godless Shrine, High Market, Isolated Chapel, Secluded Steppe, Silent Clearing, Tainted Field, Temple of Silence, Unclaimed Territory, 11 Plains, and 11 Swamps. So yeah, that's my deck. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm hoping you're liking this new video format and stuff. I'm trying to eventually rework all my old videos into this format, so yeah. Hope you enjoyed the video and have a good day. Kaboosh!